Welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're really diving into Fated Duet.
Oh, yeah.
This is book 2
Okay.
in Abigail Davies' Obey Fate series.
Right.
And we are working directly with the text on this one.
Awesome.
This deep dive is all about exploring Arya's journey
Mm-hmm.
and how she handles some pretty intense stuff, both internally and in her relationships.
Yeah. It's a lot.
So buckle up.
It's a wild ride.
Yeah.
It'd be really easy to just label this a forbidden romance and kind of move on.
Right.
But there's so much more going on here with this story.
Yeah.
Yes, there's that undeniable pull between Arya and her teacher, Cade.
Right.
But the author uses that to really springboard into some deeper questions.
Yeah.
About how we deal with emotional pain,
Mm-hmm.
the pressure to conform, and the power of finding your voice in the midst of chaos.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about Arya's internal struggles.
Okay.
Because that's a huge part of what makes this deep dive so interesting. She turns to self-harm as a way to cope. And what I found so striking is that the book doesn't shy away from showing us the raw reality of it.
No,
Oh.
it's definitely not sugar-coated.
Yeah.
We see how cutting provides Arya with a momentary sense of relief
Right.
from these intense emotions that she's battling,
Yeah.
particularly that fear of losing Cade.
Mm-hmm.
The first instance we see is right after another teacher, Miss Simmons, catches them in a compromising moment
Right.
in the classroom.
Yeah, that's a turning point in the story, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like this moment sets off a chain reaction both internally for Arya and in terms of the external pressures she faces.
For sure. That incident with Miss Simmons is like a catalyst.
Yeah.
It intensifies her fear of their secret being exposed,
Right.
and her self-harm escalates from there.
Mm-hmm.
We see it happening in the school bathroom at her home, when her mom and Sal are out, even in her closet while her friends are downstairs.
Wow.
It's not just a one-time thing.
Right.
It's a pattern,
Yeah.
and it speaks to a deeper level of distress.
Definitely. And speaking of that forbidden romance, the author gives us some really intense scenes
Oh, yeah?
that show the depth of their connection, even if it's clearly a dangerous situation.
Right.
There's that scene where Arya touches herself in class while Cade watches,
Mm-hmm.
and their attraction is just simmering beneath the surface.
Yeah.
Then later there's that charged kiss in the diner's storage room,
Right.
and that incredibly passionate encounter at the lake house.
Yeah. It's clear there's a depth connection between them.
Right.
But that forbidden element adds so many layers
It does.
to their relationship.
Yeah.
And Cade is conflicted,
Mm-hmm.
knowing the ethical lines that he's crossing,
Yeah.
but also deeply caring for Arya.
Yeah. And he even confides in his friend Ford, admitting that he hasn't told Arya the full extent of the risks they face.
Right.
Because deep down, he hopes they can somehow be together.
That adds a whole other layer of complexity, doesn't it?
It really does.
Makes you wonder about the motivations behind his actions.
It-
Is he truly prioritizing Arya's well-being?
Right.
Or is he letting his own desires kind of cloud his judgment?
Exactly. It makes you, the reader, question if this is truly a love story or something more complicated.
Right.
Yeah. And then, of course, you bring in external pressures like Willow Cade's colleague,
Mm-hmm.
who clearly has her own designs on him.
Yes.
She starts using some pretty questionable tactics
Oh, yeah.
to try to secure him for herself.
Definitely.
Yeah, Willow definitely throws a wrench into the works,
She does.
adding another layer of stress for both Arya and Cade.
For sure.
Her manipulative actions create these obstacles that seem almost impossible for them to overcome.
Right.
It makes you wonder, how much can one relationship withstand?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how the author contrasts Willow's manipulative behavior
Yes.
with the genuine support that Arya gets from her best friend, Hope.
Right.
While Willow is trying to isolate Arya,
Yeah.
Hope is a consistent source of stability and normalcy.
She's that friend who offers a sense of perspective
Hmm.
and reminds Arya that there's more to life than just this intense relationship with Cade.
Right.
Then there's Lola Cade's sister-in-law,
Yeah.
who seems to be a source of understanding and compassion for both of them.
Yeah.
She's almost like a grounding force in the midst of all the drama.
She is.
Yeah.
These contrasting relationships really highlight the different ways people can influence someone
Right.
who's already struggling.
Yeah.
And it makes you think about the kinds of support systems we all need,
Exactly.
especially during tough times.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that the people we surround ourselves with can
Yeah.
have a profound impact on our well-being,
Yes,
whether it's positive or negative.
for sure.
And then there's this intense episode where Arya goes on a wild shopping spree,
Okay.
clearly in a manic state.
Mm-hmm.
It ultimately leads to a breakdown.
Right. It's a pivotal moment. wouldn't you say?
It is. It's a turning point for sure.
Yeah.
The shopping spree isn't just about buying stuff.
Right.
It's symbolic of Arya trying to fill an emotional void.
And it ultimately leads to a situation where Cade is finally forced to seek professional help for her.
Right. And that's where things really start to shift.
Okay.
It's as though this crisis brings everything to the surface, leading to Arya's diagnosis of bipolar disorder
Right.
and the beginning of her treatment.
And what's striking is that Cade is there for her every step of the way.
Yeah.
And his support underscores the depth of his feelings, even though their situation is still incredibly complicated.
Yeah. But secrets have a way of coming out, right?
They do.
Yeah.
That's where things take a really dramatic turn.
Okay.
Willow discovers the truth about Arya and Cade,
Right.
and she doesn't hesitate to use it to her advantage,
Yeah.
essentially blackmailing him.
Wow.
It's a classic power play.
Yeah.
And Willow is clearly not afraid to use what she knows to get what she wants.
Right.
Cade, determined to protect, Arya hatches this plan to expose Willow's own secrets,
Okay.
her drug use. He goes as far as to film her without her knowledge, which raises some ethical questions in itself.
Yeah.
It's a risky move, and things escalate quickly from there.
Okay.
In a very dramatic turn of events, Arya collapses and is rushed to the hospital.
Oh, wow.
This is where the consequences of all the hidden truths start to become unavoidable.
Right.
It's during this crisis that Arya's self-harm is revealed to her mom, Yan and Sal, her stepfather.
Oh, no.
It's a moment of truth that forces everyone to confront what's been hidden beneath the surface.
Right.
Yan is understandably furious, and there's this confrontation with Cade as she grapples with the reality of her daughter's relationship with him.
Yeah.
It's heavy stuff, and you really feel for everyone involved.
Yeah.
This whole sequence of events really highlights the fragility of keeping secrets and the potential for things to spiral out of control.
Wow.
It sets the stage for a major shift in the story, forcing everyone to confront the issues they've been avoiding and hopefully leading towards some kind of healing.
Yeah, it's fascinating how this whole situation forces everyone into a kind of pressure cooker. Arya's internal struggles, her relationship with Cade, the external pressures from Willow, and the weight of their secrets, it all explodes with her collapse.
And it's in that moment of crisis that we see a shift. It's like the ground beneath them cracks open and they're forced to deal with the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
What's really interesting to me is how the author uses this crisis to transition into a space of potential healing, particularly through that family therapy session with Dr. Bay.
Yeah, that therapy session is crucial.
Yeah.
It's where we see the characters start to peel back the layers of their own defenses and confront the painful truths that they've been avoiding. You've got Arya, Cade, Jan, and Sal all in the same room, guided by Dr. Bay, who provides a framework for them to communicate honestly.
It's not an easy process, though, right? There's a lot of anger, hurt, and blame flying around. Yan's initial reaction to Cade is completely understandable.
Given her fear that he's taken advantage of Arya.
Absolutely. Her protectiveness is fierce.
Yeah.
And she's grappling with a lot of guilt
Right.
about not recognizing the signs of Arya's struggles sooner.
And then there's Sal.
Right.
His confession of love for Arya is so powerful.
It is.
He steps up as a father figure, acknowledging her pain and offering unwavering support. It really brings home the idea that family isn't always about blood ties. It's about the people who show up for you consistently.
It's a beautiful testament to the power of chosen family.
Mm.
Sal's presence in that session, his vulnerability and sincerity, really underscore the importance of having people in your corner who love and support you unconditionally, especially when you're going through something as difficult as Arya is.
What really struck me about that therapy session is how Arya finally opens up about her self-harm. Up until this point, it's been this hidden burden,
Yeah.
this secret shame that she's carried. But in that room with everyone bearing witness, she's able to release some of that pain and start the process of healing.
It's a powerful moment of vulnerability. And what's remarkable is that by sharing her secret, Arya creates space for others to do the same.
Right.
It's like a dam breaks,
Yeah.
and suddenly everyone is a little more honest, a little more open to confronting their own truths.
It's not a magic fix, though.
No.
The therapy session is just a starting point.
Right. It sets them on a new path,
Yeah.
but it's going to be a long and winding road to healing.
It's interesting how the author uses Arya's high school graduation as a symbol of this new beginning. It represents a culmination of her efforts, a milestone she achieves despite all the turmoil she's been through.
Yeah, her graduation is a testament to her resilience. It's as though she's emerging from the darkness, ready to step into a brighter future. And importantly, her relationship with Cade deepens now free from the weight of secrecy and shame. They attend her graduation party together with her family, signifying a growing acceptance and a sense of unity.
I love that visual of them all together at the party. It
Yeah.
feels like a real turning point, not just for Arya and Cade as a couple,
Yeah.
but for their integration into a more supportive family unit. It makes me wonder, though, is this idealized ending realistic? Can a relationship that started under such ethically questionable circumstances truly thrive?
That's a great question. And it's one the author leaves open for the reader to grapple with. There's a
Yeah.
sense of hope for sure,
Yeah.
but also an awareness that there will be challenges ahead.
Right.
It's not a fairy tale ending, but rather a realistic portrayal of two people committed to making their relationship work, even with the baggage that they carry.
What really stands out to me is how the author portrays the healing process.
Okay.
It's not a straight line. It's messy, emotional, and it takes time.
Yeah.
She doesn't shy away from the complexity of it all, showing us that there are setbacks, moments of doubt, and the constant need to navigate difficult conversations.
And it's not just about individual healing either.
Right.
It's about mending fractured relationships, rebuilding trust, and learning to communicate in healthier ways. The family therapy session is like a microcosm of that larger process, showcasing how even the most strained relationships can find a path towards reconciliation.
It's like that famous quote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." Arya's journey, all the pain and heartbreak, ultimately opens her up to a deeper level of self-awareness and
Yeah.
the possibility of forging stronger, more authentic connections with the people around her.
What's particularly striking to me is how Fated Duet doesn't shy away from exploring the ripple effects of trauma.
Right.
It's not just Arya who's impacted by the events of the story, it's everyone around her.
Mm.
Yen's own past trauma, her fear of repeating her father's mistakes, becomes intertwined with Arya's struggles.
It's almost like their pain echoes each other, creating this generational cycle of dysfunction that they're both trying to break free from. It makes you think about how our own experiences, even the ones we try to bury, can unconsciously influence our relationships and the choices that we make.
Exactly. And it highlights the importance of addressing those unresolved traumas, not just for our well-being, but for the sake of those we love.
Speaking of unresolved trauma, let's talk about Cade. The author reveals that he, too, carries a heavy burden from his past, something connected to that lake house that becomes a recurring symbol in the story.
Oh yeah, the lake house is fascinating.
Yeah.
On the surface, it's this idyllic escape, a
Mm-hmm.
place where Arya and Cade can be themselves,
Right,
away from the pressures and judgments of their everyday lives.
right.
But it's also a place where darkness lingers, a reminder of past hurts and the enduring power of memory.
It's like the lake house represents a duality. It's a
Mhm.
space of potential healing and reconnection, but it's also haunted by the ghosts of their past.
And Cade's decision to take Arya there for their first real date is loaded with symbolism.
Oh, yeah.
It's a gesture of trust, a way of reclaiming that space and transforming it from a source of pain into a place of love and hope.
It makes you wonder if he's trying to rewrite his own history
Right.
to create new positive associations with the lake house.
And there's a vulnerability in that choice,
Mm.
a willingness to let Arya into a part of himself that he's kept hidden for so long. It's interesting how the author weaves together these different threads of trauma, love, and the search for belonging.
Mm.
There's this sense that each character is grappling with their own internal demons, their own past hurts, and how those wounds influence their present relationships.
It's like they're all carrying these invisible scars that shape their perceptions and their interactions with each other. And it makes you think about how our own past experiences, even the ones we think we've moved on from, can continue to influence us in ways we might not even realize.
Absolutely. And it highlights the importance of self-awareness and the courage to confront those hidden parts of ourselves. Because until we do, those unresolved traumas can continue to play out in our relationships, often in destructive ways.
You know, one of the things that keeps coming back to me is the symbolism of the lake house.
Okay.
It's not just a setting. It's almost like a character in itself representing this complex interplay of light and darkness, healing and pain.
It's a great observation. The lake house is this liminal space, a place where the boundaries between past and present reality and memory become blurred. It's a place of escape, but it's also a place where the characters are forced to confront their deepest fears and desires.
I'm especially struck by how Cade's past trauma is connected to the lake house. It adds this layer of complexity to his character and his relationship with Arya.
Right, it makes you wonder if he's truly seeking redemption or if he's repeating patterns from his past. And Arya's presence there, her innocence and vulnerability become almost a catalyst for him to confront those demons he's been running from.
It's like she represents a chance for him to rewrite his own history, to create new positive associations with a place that's been tainted by pain.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that healing often involves revisiting the places where we've been hurt, but this time with a different perspective, with the support of people who love and care for us.
Now let's talk about the other male characters in the story, because I think they play such important roles in supporting both Oria and Cade Salaria's stepfather. Really steps up throughout the story, showing a depth of compassion and understanding that goes beyond what you might expect.
He's that quiet, steadfast presence that often gets overlooked, but his love for Arya is unwavering. And it's not just passive. He actively challenges Jon when he senses she's being too harsh on Arya. He's a voice of reason, advocating for understanding and compassion when others are quick to judge.
And then there's Ford, Cade's best friend.
Right.
He's the one who holds Cade accountable, calling him out on his questionable choices and urging him to consider the consequences of his actions. But he's also fiercely loyal and supportive, offering a listening ear and practical help when Cade needs it most.
Ford is that friend. We all need the one who's not afraid to tell us the hard truths, but who also loves and supports us unconditionally. He's a reminder that true friendship involves both honesty and compassion.
Both Sal and Ford embody a type of masculinity that's often missing from contemporary narratives. They're strong and capable, but they're also sensitive and empathetic and in touch with their emotions.
They challenge traditional notions of what it means to be a man, showing that vulnerability and strength can coexist. And they demonstrate that true strength often lies in the ability to ask for help, to express emotions, and to prioritize the well-being of those we care about.
It's refreshing to see male characters who are comfortable with emotional intimacy, who prioritize connection over competition, and who model healthy communication and relationship skills.
Now, shifting gears a bit, I want to talk about the decision to include the scene where Cade films Willow using drugs without her knowledge. It's a morally ambiguous choice, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it.
It's definitely a tough one. On the one hand, you can understand Cade's desperation to protect Arya and to neutralize Willow's threat. He's acting out of a sense of love and loyalty, but his methods are ethically questionable.
Right. It raises those uncomfortable questions about the ends justifying the means, and it forces us to consider where we draw the line when it comes to protecting the people we love. Is it ever okay to violate someone's privacy, even if it's for a seemingly good cause?
It's a reminder that even when we're acting with good intentions, our choices can have unintended consequences, and we have to be willing to own those choices and grapple with the complexities of the situation.
And it speaks to the challenges of dealing with manipulative behavior. Sometimes there's no easy solution, and even when we win, there's a cost.
I think it's also important to acknowledge that Willow's actions, while manipulative and hurtful, are ultimately a symptom of her own pain and insecurity. Her drug use is a cry for help, a desperate attempt to numb the emotional turmoil she's experiencing.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that everyone is fighting their own battles, and sometimes the people who hurt us the most are hurting themselves as well.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Fated Duet, I'm left with a mix of emotions. It's a story that's both heartwarming and heartbreaking, hopeful, and unsettling.
It's a story that challenges us to think critically about complex issues like mental health trauma, forgiveness, and the nature of love itself. And it reminds us that life is messy, relationships are complicated, and there are no easy answers.
But ultimately, I think it's a story about the resilience of the human spirit, the enduring power of love, and the possibility of finding redemption even in the darkest of circumstances.
And it leaves us with that lingering question. What would our own turning points be? What choices would we make when faced with similar challenges?
It's a question that invites us to reflect on our own lives, our own relationships, and the values that guide our choices. And it reminds us that we all have the power to choose love over fear, forgiveness over resentment, and hope over despair.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Fated Duet. We hope this conversation has sparked some new insights and inspired you to continue exploring the complexities of human experience through the power of storytelling.